I'm super excited about our next guest. It hasn't stopped, running through my mind the fact that, they are a classically trained musician, and the fact that he's also a communications officer advocating for accessibility and inclusive design. He's one of the people out there who is a trailblazer, creating paths where they haven't been passed before. He managed to alter the accessibility of the new app Clubhouse for disabled users. Now, if those of you out there who, don't know what Clubhouse is, it's a new type of social network based on voice where people around the world will listen and learn from each other in real time. And he went on there and, it started to really open up the accessibility points for people out there who are disabled users. On top of that, our next guest, Kevin Satizabal, co-hosts the PS I'm Blind podcast. He's doing it all. Right, he's doing it all, and it makes me feel like, I need to start doing something different. Please just join me, right, and giving a huge round of applause for the one and only Kevin Satizabal. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the intro as well.
Listen, you're putting us to shame. Kevin, clearly, you're proving that being blind does not mean, having any kind of limitations on your ambitions or your success. You're absolutely smashing it.
Do you know, it's such an important message to get out there. So many people think that losing your sight is the end of it all, and it's not. It's really tough for people that do, but there is so much support out there. There's such a vibrant, amazing community there to help, and there are so many resources. I think it's just a new beginning, a new way of doing things, and I think it's really important to just put your step forward and look forward and dream big. That's the most important thing to do.
Now, I'm definitely a person who's an advocate for dreaming big. I have big dreams too, my friend. However, you are someone who strikes me to be, the type of individual that finds that untapped resource to keep going, to have that sense of resilience, to keep their spirits up. How have you managed that, particularly, in the last 12 months when many people, particularly creatives and musicians, have struggled to keep that enthusiasm, have struggled to keep that sense of hope? How have you done that? How have you maintained that?
I mean, the reality is that things are tough for all of us, isn't it?
Right.
But I think, like, the thing for me, ever since when I was a child, I had kind of a tough upbringing, a lot of people putting me down, saying, you're not going to achieve much because you're blind. And I'm the kind of person that if I'm told that I can't achieve something, I'm like, well, you try me. I'm going to prove you wrong.
You watch.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that's, and I think the thing is, why can't I do the same things as anyone else? Like, as long as I've got the support there, and as long as I've got the community and the technology, as long as society helps disabled people, puts the support mechanisms in, if there's a building with a ramp in, a disabled person a wheelchair user can go into the building. If that ramp isn't there, then they can't. But it doesn't, mean that they're not capable. It's just about society's attitudes.
And being more welcome to those, those changes. I remember one of my friends said to me, do you know how hard it is to travel around on the tube? You have to really find the right places that you can enter and exit in certain platforms. And I thought, it never concerned to me that we really need to start opening our minds to how things can be used and perceived. And you're one of those people who took that initiative and went on the social media app Clubhouse and started to create almost like a campaign to have more accessibility for people who identified as being disabled users. What beckoned you to do that?
So when I went onto Clubhouse, the app wasn't very accessible. A lot of the buttons were not labeled. So when you were navigating the hallway where you see your rooms, you didn't know what the search button was, and so on and so on. And I said to my friend Alex, let's create a room to show other blind people who are coming onto this app, give them tips and so on and so forth. And then when I did that, the 15% club reached out. So on Clubhouse, you have clubs, basically like groups of people that gather together under a topic. And the 15% club is a club basically purporting to the statistic that 15% of people in the world have a disability. And they've already started creating a document kind of putting down some of the accessibility features of this app, some of the accessibility issues, sorry. And so we teamed up together, started hosting this room and taking people's questions, giving them tips on how to use the app better. And then the developer of the iOS engineer popped into the room and took a good hour of his own time. Must be a busy guy developing this
You're
new up and
right.
coming app, and actually listened to our feedback. And we were saying things like, when people are inviting us up onto the stage to speak, we can't see that invitation, so we're having to find our own name and accept it and all this stuff. And he listened, took notes, took our questions, and the work has begun, and those things are being resolved. I mean, there are still accessibility issues in the sense that for deaf users, there isn't captioning, for example. So, and there are still some navigational issues. So I would continue to urge Clubhouse to continue working on
Making those
accessibility.
changes, yeah. So all right. Here's my thing. All right, I feel that there are certain individuals who just have that tenacity to make change in the world. All right. And we always come against adversity. We always have, challenges in our lives. But there are certain people, just have it in their DNA. They have it in their makeup where no matter what they're faced against, they push through. They find a way around it. They jump over it. And you strike me as one of those people. Was there ever like an event, right, or an experience or an instance with you, a person or a situation that kind of shaped you to feel like, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to find a way. No matter what, I'm going to make a way through. I'm going to build a bridge. I'm going to develop this. I'm going to challenge. Like, was there ever an instance that kind of, started that mindset for you?
I think for me it was because I'm Colombian, and when I was in Colombia, it was tough. Like, people didn't understand about Braille and so on, and my mum would have to stay up till 1, 2 in the morning writing out my textbooks into Braille so that I could take part in class the next day. And my parents, went to music with college with me every Saturday, took me there, took me home, and I saw them. They gave up so much for me, and like for them, I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to achieve something for them, also to make them proud. But then also, as I've seen, kind of more accessibility issues and things like that, I just can't stay quiet. If I make things better for myself, if I call it out, if I contact companies and say, if you make things better for me, then it makes it better for everyone else.
Right.
And that's what I'm all about. If I can help myself, then I'll help others as well.
So beautiful. Listen, if you're joining me right now, it's your boy LionHeart here, and I'm joined by Kevin Satizabal, who is a remarkable musician, right? Classically trained musician and communications officer advocating for accessibility and inclusive design. Kevin, do me a favor, right? I'm someone who is probably a grade 1 piano, probably a grade 1 piano. Where did you find, all right, this ability to decide, I'm going to be classically trained? All right, because for me, I can play a Mary Has a Little Lamb and I'm done. I feel like, hey, I've done something. It's a grade 1 for piano. I'm great. I can leave it there. You wanted to pursue that with, such vigor. Like, what was it about piano? As an instrument, I know it's quite remarkable. You put on any song and you start thinking, okay, this is quite the rhythm. What was it about you, that wanted to be a classically trained musician? I know you said that your parents have a relation to music, but like, what was it about that?
Well, I got a piano as a Christmas present when I was a kid, and I just opened it up and started playing, and that was just amazing. And then I started listening to tunes, and I realized that as I heard tunes or people singing tunes, I could begin to pick it out once I'd learned what some of the notes were. And so I just had that affinity, and also, like, music was the one thing where I didn't feel like that there were any barriers. I was doing my thing. I was in my world, and I could escape into my music. And people listened, for better or for worse, people listened to what I was doing. And I just felt like, do you know what? This is something that I can express myself with. So that's why I really, really took to it. And then I went to music college.
Well, listen, I gave up on piano, hence why I'm a poet. I definitely didn't have, the confidence to see it through, but I'm glad you have, and you're also someone who has saw through doing a podcast with your friend, right? Now, talk to me. The podcasting world is quite saturated right now. I think it's fair to say that mostly every one of my friends is deciding, let's develop a podcast, let's have a chat, let's do this format. What made you decide, with your co-host, that you wanted to develop a podcast?
So the podcast is developed with 5 of us, and we all have some level of visual impairment. And the idea of it was, we just wanted to do a podcast where we talk about a whole range of issues, just to show people that, young blind people can just be like anyone else, like any other young people, talking about films, games. And but by the way, we're just blind, because I think that's one of the things that people have this fear
Hmm.
of blindness. How do I approach someone who's blind? Just like anyone else, just go, hello, how are you? Just to
Yeah, how's your
start off a
day? Yeah.
conversation. Yeah. there's no there's no fear, and I think that's what that podcast is trying to put across.
Let me just again, if I'm touching on places I shouldn't, let me know, right, Kevin? Why do you think people have that mentality or have that stereotype where they feel like they can't approach someone normally just because they don't have sight or they have an impaired vision? Why do you think that's in people's minds?
That's a good question. I think part of it is just ignorance.
Mm.
Some people feel like, oh, maybe if I say something, I'm going to be offended or anything like that. But I think for me, I'm always like, just ask me questions. Don't like, be look like really intrusive or anything. But just if somebody's willing to talk to you, just talk to me like anybody else. Just because I can't see what in front of me doesn't mean that I don't have a personality and I don't have abilities and talent like anyone else. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it strikes me because I remember being in primary school, and I think it was definitely primary school, and we had a new student. I think he was an exchange student, and English wasn't his first language, right? And I think there were so many people who just felt like he wasn't intelligent because he couldn't speak, like he couldn't speak English as a first language. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Just because someone doesn't speak the first language, why is there this association with someone's intelligence? And it kind of makes
Mm.
me think, all right, well, yes, someone is impaired. They have a visual impairment, but that doesn't shape who they are. That doesn't shape their ambitions, their tenacity, their drive, or what they're capable of doing. And you happen to be one of the staple people that demonstrates that. And I guess in my mind, does it come with any pressure? Are there people out there who think, well, you could do it, I can't do it because I'm not you?
I hear that a lot of the time.
Hmm.
People got, friends of me have told me, "Oh yeah, but you're that kind of guy," and I'm like, but look, at the end of the day, I don't feel particularly special. All I'm doing is just trying to make a career for myself, and and live my best life, kind of thing. All I'm trying to do is just um, live like anybody else, and I think just keep trying. Don't be afraid of failure, and ask for help, because I couldn't have done it with the support of my parents, the support of my friends,
Hmm.
the support of a really, really helpful community. We all need people to hold us up and push us forward, because, collaboration is key, I think, in anything, to get anything done.
Listen, if you're joining me right now, it's your boy LionHeart, and I'm about to get some great tips from our guest Kevin Satizabal. Now, Kevin, listen, you are someone who accomplishes feats, all right? I'm someone who has a list of all the things that I want to do and achieve in life. Even on the way to the BBC tonight, I wrote another list of things that I want to accomplish. What would be the top three things? You said, having a support system, so let's put that to one side for now if we can. But what would be the things for people out there who are listening to me and you having this conversation about, achieving things when you're up against a certain type of challenge or adversity? What would be the top three things that allowed you and allow you, that continue to allow you to achieve great feats?
If someone tells you you can't do something, say why and push harder,
Hmm.
move forward. Um, work hard. Sometimes we're going to have to work twice as hard, and that is tough. But you know what? That is the reality of life,
Hmm.
and I think that's really important. And the other one is also, don't forget to have fun and network. I think networking is so important.
So key. So key. People forget that, and I used to be someone who's quite introverted. I had a lot of insecurities, let's put it that way. And it would stop me from speaking to people. I had a thing called selective mutism as well. So there are so many things going on in my life that kind of restrained me, that gave me this almost inertia to socialize. And I think once you become, open to socializing and creating a network, there are so many more things that become available to you. So I definitely want to champion that. Listen, Kevin, I don't want to take too much of your time, all right? But as I was saying earlier in the show, pubs and restaurants are going to be opening their doors if they have a garden or outdoor spaces from April the 12th, and this is, a time for you to really get back out there in the world. Are you quite confident, in the arts and entertainment side of things, in the performance spaces? Do you feel like that side of our economy is going to thrive again? And are you looking forward to it?
I really hope it does. I think it's been really tough for the music industry. I was on my own Facebook. There's a lot of musicians who are saying that they have retrained and are not going back to the music industry, which is really, really disheartening
Yeah.
because of the lack of support. But I really hope that we can get back to it. And I think that for blind musicians and disabled musicians, there's still a long way to go. The music industry is not as open as it could be. So I just urge people to be more open. There are a lot of talented disabled musicians out there. So just give us a chance. Like I've had uh, people cutting off my calls when I've been trying to book gigs because I can't drive.
Wow.
It's like, well, actually, if I can get a friend to drive me, or I can pay for an
Yeah.
Uber, or get a support worker
It's
from Access to Work.
ridiculous.
There are ways. There are ways. Just because I'm blind, it doesn't mean that I can't get to a gig.
You're
I'll
a
figure it out.
solutionist, Kevin. I think that's one of your special abilities. And I know you said you're not special, right? You don't label yourself special. But being a solutionist, finding a way, developing ideas, adapting to whatever you're up against. I think that's one of your superpowers. And I'm so glad that you shared that, because I know, me being one of those people, right, who tell themselves, sometimes, oh, am I good enough? Or am I going to be able to do this? Whenever there's an obstacle, I'm going to take that leaf out of your book, my friend, and start telling myself I have the same superpower as you and become a solutionist. Find a way. Don't accept the no that people are telling you. Find a way. Listen, Kevin, thank you ever so much for joining me tonight. What's the next 5 to 10 years going to look like for someone who's so accomplished as yourself?
Oh man, who knows what's going to happen? But I really hope to continue podcasting. Hope to continue my advocacy work, and let's see what happens. And thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk to you. It's been great.
Listen, it's a pleasure, my friend. Listen, let everyone know what streaming platforms they can find your podcast.
Basically, you can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud as well.
There you go. That is PS I'm Blind. Listen, Kevin, thank you so much. You have a brilliant night, my friend.